Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from who do well. Peace and salutation to 144,000. The rest of the 1/3, the large multitude, until I say shalom. Coming to you back with another Let's Do the Spirit, and I'm entitled this one, The Mirth of This Place is Gone and Will Not Come Back. And ultimately going into this place that we call America, which is Babylon the Great, spoken about in the scriptures, that is prophesied to be destroyed by the way of fire when those intercontinental ballistic missiles get shot over here to the souls of America to utterly destroy this place, to end that Third World War, but also to end the kingdom of Esau, Edom, which is the so-called white man. But first, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to tear this place from the inside out, just like he did in Egypt by sending all these different, all the different plagues, from the rivers being turned into blood to the frogs to the locusts, and eventually that final plague, which was the death of the death of the firstborn, from the Egyptian babies to the cattle, to the utter darkness that covered the whole land of Egypt, except for the Israelites that had that light still in the land of Goshen, while the rest of the Egyptians were in utter darkness. They were plagued by all the different apparitions because it was so dark. They could feel the darkness. They could feel all the evil spirits that were around them. And it's the same thing today here in America. These people are bugging out because they're seeing that the mirth of this place, America, is being wiped out. You got all these different nightclubs and bars closing down at a record number. All these restaurants shutting down because nobody's going to them. All these different music venues shutting down, and all these concerts being canceled because nobody's buying tickets. Nobody has the money that they used to, that leftover money that allowed people to just spend it on whatever. Now people are barely able to make ends meet, having to choose between buying groceries or putting gas in their car, and pretty much the mirth of this place is gone because people are starting to see that this place is collapsing and that really it has no hope. But yeah, you still got some people who are in that spirit of mirth, but ultimately it's an act. They're not really in it. Their heart is really not in it. The reason that they're doing these things is to get away from reality. It's not to really have a good time, but to distract themselves from all these different calamities, all these different plagues that are being sent on the earth by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So the mirth that America once had back in the 50s, 60s, 80s, 90s, even the 2010s is gone and is not coming back. And that's what these people don't understand. They have that hope that somehow America is going to bounce back, that the mirth is going to come back, the economy is going to bounce back. But no, this place is through. Babylon is not going to be healed. It is Isaiah 24 and verse 4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away, the haughty people of the earth do languish. And who are the haughty people? Which that word haughty going into prideful. All these, especially these so-called white people, which are the Edomites, they're the one languishes the most because they're not used to being low, being brought low. Not being able to afford groceries and pay their bills, being in the same state that Jake has been in all these years, because Jake is used to struggling. They're used to scrambling and to pay their rent, while these Edomites aren't. That's why you see all these Edomites, mainly women, complaining on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, that they're losing their jobs. They can't afford to pay their bills because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is shutting this place down by having all these people being laid off, being replaced by AI, because ultimately Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is about to crash this system through Esau, Edom, so that mass implementation of the MOTB could happen. But first, this economy has to collapse, and it's clearly collapsing, and it's not going to bounce back. The dollar is being devalued day by day. You got gold, the value of gold at an all-time high, because it's clear and evident that this place is done. Jump down to verse 7. Verse 7, Isaiah 24 and verse 7. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, all of the merry-hearted do sigh. So the new wine, the new ways of life that Babylon offered back in the day and till this day is being done away with all the bread and circus, the different NFL, the MLB, the NBA, the boxing matches. That's through. All the movies, all the TV shows, all the sitcoms is not the same, because Yahweh Shemel Shai has taken the mirth out of this place. That's why Hollywood has ran out of ideas, and the only thing that they're pushing out is remakes of the same movies that have been out, decades prior, because they're trying to recreate that feeling, that that nostalgia of back then, but it's gone. It's not the same. And it's clear and evident because the whole world has woken up to the fact that this place that we call America, the American dream, is bullshit. And people are still somehow trying to distract themselves through drinking and doing drugs and doing all these things that could, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, to trying to distract themselves from this place collapsing, but it's not working. Verse 8, the mirth of tabrets ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joys of the harp ceases. So all these different music arenas and music venues, music festivals, the attendance it's at an all-time low, because people aren't in that spirit of really partying like they used to, because they can't afford it. And ultimately that's Yahweh Shemel Shai crashing this place, so these people could be in that spirit of mourning, because very soon all the different comforts that these Americans, these Babylonians are used to, is going to be taken away. From the dainties, the fast food, the being able to work a 9 to 5, that's all going to be done away with very soon. And at that point, these people are going to really bug out, because they're not going to have any comfort. They're not going to have any answers. They're going to be seeking answers, and they're not going to find it. Verse 9, they shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them to drink it. So all these people that are drinking to so-called drink the sorrows away, to get away from reality, they're not going to be able to, and they're not being able to right now. All these alcohol isn't the same. Wine is all polluted, GMO wine, because Yahweh Shemel Shai is taking all the comforts that this world has to offer away. But that's ultimately the Lord letting these Americans, these Babylonians, know that this place is through. Verse 10, the city of confusion is broken down, every house is shut up, and then no man may come in. So ultimately was the city of confusion going into Babylon the Great, which, that word Babylon means confusion. And this place is confused as all hell. You can't tell a man from a woman. Everything is out of order. So everything here is confusion. That's why Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to destroy this place, because it's nothing but confusion, nothing but wickedness. Verse 11, there is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. So all these people, they're looking for answers. They're crying out. You got our people asking for answers, but yet you got the prophets out here on the highways and byways telling you why this place is collapsing, what's about to take place, and what the end of this place that we call America is, which is utter destruction. But yet Jake is still out here bugging out, looking for other answers, seeking for false divinations that America is going to be healed, going to these Christian churches, thinking that these pastors are going to give them a comfort. But ultimately we know that this place is through, that it's done, and it's not going to be healed. This is Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 34. Then will I cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness and the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, for the land shall be desolate. And where are the Judah and Israel? Because Jerusalem is a place, or is a people before is a place, will be chiefly here in America. Yeah, you got the 12 tribes scattered, but the bulk of the 12 tribes are here in America, and this is where Jake is concentrated in, here in America, especially in all these major cities, New York, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, Los Angeles, Miami. And that's where, Jake is always in that spirit in these major cities of partying, having a good time, music festivals going on these different nightclubs and bars. But yet, Yahweh Shema Shai is putting a stop to that by having this devil, this Esau, Edom, have a record high inflation. Drinks at these clubs are $50. You want to get a VIP section, it runs you up $500 to $1,000, and majority of people aren't able to afford this. So what are they doing is choosing to stay home, choosing to not go out, choosing to save their money so they can pay their bills. So that's ultimately Yahweh Shema Shai causing this place, all these different music venues and restaurants to shut down because people aren't able to afford it. And at the same time, these people are signing crime because they're not able to go out and have a good time like they're used to. Because that's Yahweh Shema Shai taking the mirth out of this place that we call America. This is Jeremiah chapter 16 and verse 9 in the NLT. For this is what the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai of heaven's armies, the power of Israel, says in your own lifetime. Before your very eyes, I will put an end to the happy singing and laughter in the land. In this land, the joyful voices of bridegrooms will no longer be heard. So Yahweh Shema Shai is putting a stop to all these parties, these marriages, because people are in that same spirit like in the days of the flood, eating, marrying, drinking, having a good old time. So Yahweh Shema Shai is going to allow some people to be in that spirit till those missiles hit. But majority of these people, they're through. They don't know what the hell is going on. They're lost in the sauce, thinking that America is going to be healed somehow, that the mirth is going to come back. Looking back at the so-called good old days when people were able to go out, go to the clubs and night bars for $5. Those days are done away with, and they're not going to come back. And it's clear and evident that the Lord is crashing this place, but yet Jake still wants to play around. They still want to go back to the good old days before inflation, before gas was $4 or $5. Jake wants to go back to the 50 cent a gallon for gas type of days. You can get a cart full of groceries for $50, but no, those days are gone, and they're not going to come back. Get this next verse. Verse 10. When you tell the people all these things, they will ask, why has the Lord decreed such terrible things against us? What have we done to deserve such treatment? What is our sin against the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, our power? That's what a lot of these jakes are saying. Why is all this happening? Why is this economy collapsing? Why is all these different mass shootings, all these different calamities, plagues, pestilences, famine coming upon the planet Earth, especially here in America, because of all the wickedness that goes around? It's not happening because America is such a righteous country, because it's being ran by a righteous ruler. No, it's being crashed because the wickedness of Esau, Edom, self-proclaimed white man, the wickedness of our people, the nation of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But yet Jake don't see that. Jake don't see that everything that's happening is because of their own wickedness, and it is only going to get worse. It's not going to be healed. It's not going to be better. But yet Jake still asks these questions, thinking that It's not their fault. Ultimately Esau, Edom is the one collapsing it. But ultimately it's Yahweh Bashmiel Shai putting it up on the spirit of this devil to collapse this place, because all the wickedness is going around. And who's the one who is being pushed as the face of wickedness? Is you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because Esau, Edom is painting the image that the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Jake is at the fault of all the wickedness and why America's collapsing. But ultimately we know that it's the devil, the so-called white man. Verse 11, then you will give them the Lord's Yahweh Bashmiel Shai's reply. It is because your ancestors were unfaithful to me. They worship other gods and serve them. They abandoned me and did not obey my word. So ultimately we're in the condition we're in because we sinned against Yahweh Bashmiel Shai. That's why Jake is so messed up. We're at the bottom of the barrel, but yet Jake always has that the spirit of making their captivity comfortable, making their captivity their rest. But ultimately what Jake doesn't understand is that we're not here to have a good old time, be in that spirit of folly 24/7. But yet Jake wants to be in that spirit all the damn time, and right now it's not the time for that. Right now is the time to be in the spirit of mourning, acknowledging why we're in the condition we're in, and acknowledging Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, acknowledging our sins, and acknowledging that we went the hell off, and that we need mercy from Yahweh Bashmiel Shai to get out of this captivity. Verse 12, and you are even worse than your ancestors. You stubbornly follow your own evil desires and refuse to listen to me. So here you got the prophets out on the highways and byways telling our people why America's collapsing and what's about to happen. But what does Jake do? They don't take heed. They're like, nah, hell no. I'd rather listen to these Christian pastors, these other Israelite camps that are telling me that America has another 500, 1,000 years, that the only thing that America has coming is prosperity, that the God has a big cash, a big bag of money coming my way. That's what Jake wants to hear. They don't want to hear that America's going to be destroyed. They don't want to hear that the white man's going to go into slavery. They don't want to hear that you got missiles coming and there's going to be a third world war and all hell's about to break loose. Jake don't want to hear that. But ultimately that's why Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is collapsing this place. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 2. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all man, and the living will lay it to his house. So it's better to be in a house of mourning. Not saying, just be depressed and sad 24/7, but no, ultimately acknowledge that we're in captivity and that we sin against Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, and that ultimately there's only one way out, which is through Yahweh Shai delivering you, not through having a good old time 24/7 and going to these nightclubs and being in that spirit of mirth 24/7, because that's all Jake knows. That's why Jake constantly wants to be in that spirit all the damn time. But right now it's not the time for that, because we know that great destruction is coming. All hell's about to break loose. So ultimately the elect are going to be in that correct spirit, knowing what times we're in, while the rest of these Jakes are going to be in that spirit of feasting, having a good old time, setting folly, and folly is setting great dignity. Verse 3, sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance the heart is made better. So it's better to be in that spirit of mourning, because we understand that that's the right spirit to be in right now. Because while these 2/3 Jakes and these heathens are rejoicing, even though this place is collapsing, they're still in that spirit of laughter and having a good old time, because all hell hasn't broken loose yet. But when all hell breaks loose, the roles are going to be reversed. They're going to be flipped, because then we're going to rejoice, knowing that, okay, Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is doing this thing. He's making the prophecies to pass. While the rest of these Jakes are going to be sighing, crying, looking for answers, looking for comfort, and they're not going to find it. Verse 4, the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. So that's dividing the line between the elect and the 2/3 of Jake. The elect, they're gonna be in the house of mourning, because ultimately we know what's about to come. We know that all hell's about to break loose. So why should we be in that spirit of making this our rest? Being in that spirit of having a good old time and going to the club 24/7 like these 2/3 Jakes are in, because these 2/3 Jakes, they're in that spirit of mirth. They're in the house of mirth. And ultimately, that's why Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to destroy 2/3 of our people, because they want the good old days back. They want the 80s and 90s to come back, but it's not coming back. That mirth is being wiped out and is not coming back. But that's pretty much the point. Pray this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from and do it well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say Shalom.